And now, for a moment of clarity.
You want to talk process? Here's what I can't process, Michael. Congresswoman Lauren Boebart of Colorado has invited the pardoned rioters for a Capitol tour. I think it's safe to say they have already had a full backstage self-guided tour. Wouldn't you think?
So I just want to know, why would you put stupid on my plate? Why is that? Why do I have to address stupid?
I like to serve your favorite dish.
Why do I have to address stupid Lauren Boebart? What, bobblehead Boebart? Why the hell do I have to address her dumbass?
Okay, then we'll give
serious.
Okay, fine.
Why is this even a question?
You know what? That's fair. That's fair.
It is the most asinine, ass-backward stuff.
Okay, then let's put her aside. Let's put her aside because many other GOP, many other Republican lawmakers today who were asked about these pardons, who didn't like it, who kind of dodged the question, many of them pointed to Joe Biden and tried to both sides it and say that his last minute decision to grant preemptive pardons to his family, to the January 6th committee, that was sort of their deflection. What was your make of that?
Well, I think they're right to make that deflection. Joe Biden gave them a political cudgel to beat back on him. I think that what he did and what Donald Trump did, both of these presidents have undermined, and Charles knows this very well from his own work, how the power of pardons works and sort of the importance of the pardon power. And both of these presidents undermined that power for future presidents. Both of these presidents weakened that power for future presidents. And so I fear we've sort of set up this new narrative now that any president in the future just at willy-nilly will use that power to selectively aggrandize those he wants to take care of and to selectively forget or ignore the ones he doesn't want to take care of. And so I just think that's not how that's supposed to be used. So, yeah, I can see why and how the Republicans would grab at that action and throw it back up in the president's face because he gave them an escape hatch. He gave them an excuse now to go around and do the whataboutism that they're famous for doing off of the actions or inactions of their opponents. So, yeah, here we are, and they're going to continue to use it and say, well, he pardoned his entire family. But here's the difference. His family wasn't involved in an insurrection. In fact, his family was threatened by the insurrectionist and the man who's now sitting in the White House, which is why he issued that pardon. But that still doesn't justify the issuance of that pardon.
Donald Trump is it's like executive order mania. Shouldn't we point, though, Michael, to Congress? One of the reasons we're seeing our presidents do all of this is because Congress is doing so little.
Oh, yes, that's exactly the reason. And since 9/11, when we've seen a push by the Congress to give the executive branch more authority, whether it's over surveillance questions, whether it's over foreign policy issues. And some of these things are the rightful purview of the president, no doubt. But there are limits that Congress has always had in place. There are checks to that executive authority and power. What we have seen for the last 25 years is a deliberate erosion by the Congress. The executive branch real quick will take whatever it can take. But here you have the Congress just either ignoring or giving away that authority. And that's why we are with the Donald Trump right now.
What is the goal here, Michael?
Oh, the goal is just to eradicate any effort that levels up, or touches on the idea of creating a space in which our institutions, particularly our government institutions and public institutions, are mindful of including everyone, creating that idea of access And so, the federal government has always been at the vanguard of these types of initiatives. Sometimes a little slow to the game, we know historically, but nonetheless, the military is a very good example of that sort of forward-leaning, sort of into the cultural moment and recognizing the responsibility. All of that's an anathema to those who believe that these things impinge on the whiteness of America, and that somehow by elevating up individuals of color, you're taking away something from white constituents. We know that's not the case, but that is the belief. And so Donald Trump, again, leans into that, elevates it, gives it a voice. It cements further their support of him because he's embracing whiteness as opposed to Americanism. And that's how we get where we are.
Is this the sort of thing, though, Michael, that plays well because people think that it's an easy bogeyman to say this is why nothing works, because we've stopped hiring the way that we should be hiring?
Yeah, no, David is exactly right about that, but there are ripple effects to all of this, and this DEI versus meritocracy is a false comparison. It's a false argument to make, because the presumption is that if you're embracing, diversity in your workforce, elevating up equality in your workforce, whether it's government or the private sector, that you're somehow, buying into this idea that these individuals are not worthy of the responsibility and the job, that they are not meritoriously considered. They have no value in terms of their merits. They're just picked because they're Black. They're just picked because they're white. They're inherently incompetent. That's the conversation. That's the piece that no one wants to dance on, but that's at the core of a lot of this bull around DEI. I mean, David's right. It has created a boogeyman, very much like CRT. You ask people, what is CRT? They can't tell you because they don't know. They've just been told that it's bad and that it somehow has to do with their white child being less than a Black child. So that's the thread that runs through a lot of this. And we've already seen the impact from the Supreme Court decisions on affirmative action. Institutions are now reporting that the enrollment of African-American students in particular is halved in many cases. You mean to tell me those kids had no merit otherwise to be at these schools? The fact is they don't need to consider them anymore. They don't need to put them in the meritocracy argument or consideration, because then they don't have to dance with, how many Black kids do we put in the freshman class? So that's the other side of this. When you take this requirement, if you will, which is really just kind of reminding you that there are very much Black and brown students who have the academic skills, the professional level of competency to do the job academically or to do the job professionally. But no one wants to be reminded of that, and no one wants to deal with that. They just want to take it out because, as David noted, that's the bad thing, and somehow it's going to correct, meritocracy is going to correct for everything else. And what we're already seeing with the numbers coming from Stanford and other institutions that have embraced this, this new approach, it's having an impact on who they're bringing into those classes and who they're hiring.
Catch Michael Steele on The Weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on MSNBC.